Jon Rappoport back here at InfoWars in the fourth hour. I've got some things to say about Obamacare, Obamacare light, Obamacare heavy, Obamacare no, yes. Look, any compulsory national health insurance plan where you've got to be in it, you can't get out of it, or you pay a penalty, that's taking your freedom away. I don't care how it's structured or who's in charge or what they call it or who voted for it or whatever. Because implicit in all these plans, especially in Obamacare, is that more and more over time, the government decides what good health care is, what you get, in other words, from the doctor, and what you can't get. Now we're getting down to the basics, the nub of the situation. Over time, the government decides here is a giant list of all the possible diseases and disorders, and here are the permitted treatments for all those diseases and disorders. You see, and the list grows and grows, and what they throw out grows and grows. And all these natural health practitioners who think that they're going to get a good deal out of this plan because they can attach themselves in some way to the Obamacare version that's going to eventually come out are fooling themselves. Now, many natural health practitioners already see the handwriting on the wall, but there are others who think, wow, this is a good deal. This makes us almost like real doctors. Come on, wake up. Wake up. This is about enforced medical care. This is about the medical cartel. This is about the medical police state. And as an investigative reporter for the last 34 years, gee, it just so happens I know a very great deal about this medical cartel, a very great deal. So I've been warning people all along since the first glimmers of Obamacare occurred all those years ago, watch out because you're going to enter into a medical prison where more and more you're limited in what you can get and what you can't get, what you can choose, what happens to your freedom. And as it turns out, of course, medical treatment, certainly in the US and all around the world, is getting more and more toxic. Toxic. I've cited this review, I don't know, 5,000 times now, but I never tire of it. July 26, 2000, Journal of the American Medical Association, Dr. Barbara Starfield, Johns Hopkins School of Public Health, all mainstream, all not only mainstream, but insider mainstream. Is U.S. health really the best in the world? That was the title of her review. I interviewed her in 2009. We went deeper into this, but her conclusion was, and it's backed up by other citations that I have quoted at No More Fake News. Every year in the US, medical system kills 225,000 people. Okay? That's a conservative estimate. 225,000 people killed. We're not even talking yet about maimed, but killed. That would be 2.25 million killings per decade. That's one of the things you get when you get a compulsory national health insurance plan called Obamacare, or call it whatever else you want, Orion Care, I don't care. That's one of the things you get. That's part of the secret. That's part of the secret deal, the secret plan, the secret Rockefeller globalist plan. Because, look, people say, "Oh, that's a big conspiracy." You mean they want to kill all these people? Well, A, if you know it's happening and you've known about it for a long time and you don't do anything about it whatsoever and you never try to fix it, and in fact, your brand of medicine, pharmaceutical medicine, is killing roughly half that number of the people that I just quoted on an ongoing basis, Wouldn't you say that's sufficient for suspicion that you, the globalist elite, A, know about this, and two, want it to happen? Come on. Come on. That's just the beginning of what I'm going to talk about here. The silent medical war against the people, Jon Rappoport, fourth hour, InfoWars. We will be back. Jon Rappoport, back in the fourth hour of InfoWars, talking about Obamacare, light, heavy, in, out, upside down, whatever they're going to do with it. And again, I want to impress upon you this is getting people into the system. If it's compulsory, if you don't have a choice about it, if you have to either do it or you pay a fine or a tax or whatever they want to call it, it's compulsory and they want you in the system, and the system has big time dangers. I gave you the stat, the Starfield stat in the last segment. Medical system in the US kills 225,000 people a year, conservative estimate, or 2.25 million people per decade, also conservative estimate. That's not from me, that's from the Journal of the American Medical Association, July 26, 2000. I want to get into something more, if you want to call it even more chilling than that, the next generation of vaccines. Now, what does that have to do with Obamacare? Well, if you're in the system, it's this way. The funnel gets narrow and narrow as you move through. So, well, last year we said it didn't matter whether you did this or that, but now if you're part of the system, really, we want you to do this. And then later that becomes, well, if you don't do it, we kick you out of the system. But then we fine you. And then later on, it becomes, you can't get out of the system. The system is everywhere. That's called the evolution of destructive systems. That's the way it works. Next generation of vaccines will be included as part of this system, and it will follow that evolution. They're called DNA vaccines. The article appeared 2015, I'm going to say April, New York Times. I wrote a couple of pieces about this. Screw in your brains real tight on this because you want to understand this. What the genetic researchers are saying is, look, human clinical trials are already underway. Tests. That's 2015. We synthesize a gene that we say can produce immunity to a specific disease. Here it is. We load that gene onto a virus. We inject the virus into the body. The gene drops off and is incorporated into your DNA, thus immunizing you against the disease, just like we said. Of course, it permanently alters your DNA. Got it? And in the Times article, they interviewed Nobel Prize winner Dr. David Baltimore, and he said, well, yes, very interesting. He said, of course, I could see how some people might be a little leery about having their DNA changed. Really? You think so? On top of that, no guarantee of immunity. But let's put that aside because what we're talking about is re engineering your DNA and everybody's DNA who receives the next generation of vaccines, not only now on the drawing boards, but in clinical trials of humans. And then, doesn't it follow as the night to day that if your DNA is permanently altered, the next generation's DNA, when you become mommy, daddy, that will also be altered because that's what you're handing down, and so on and so forth, thus re engineering the entire human race. Much more to the story. I will continue that, but let's talk about a natural product at InfoWarsStore.com, InfoWarsLife.com, the all new Myco ZX fungus and yeast cleanser. So we're talking about candida. We're talking about fungal problems. Candida alone releases over 80 known toxins, which can weaken the body's defenses and cause the mucous membranes of the gut to start leaking. Yeast overgrowth is even linked to an average weight gain of 32.5 pounds. MycoZX is an all natural fungus and yeast cleanser by InfoWars Life that uses organic herbs and enzymes to activate your body's own defenses. 7 of the most powerful organic and wildcrafted ingredients designed to attack and melt away the membrane of yeast and fungal organisms. Fight back against hidden yeast and fungus with MycoZX at InfoWarsLife.com and get free ship this week alone. Limited special here is 10% off when you get MycoZX with the powerful biome defense probiotic on InfoWarsLife.com. There it is. Genetically engineered so-called vaccines that alter your DNA and everybody else's DNA. Of course, they're not vaccines. It's genetic intrusion, invasion. And like I say, once you impose a compulsory national health insurance plan on a country, you are now setting the stage. You're setting the table. This is the op. This is the covert op. Once we've got them in the system, we can do whatever we want with them in terms of the actual medical treatment that we're giving them. Hey, you're part of the system. You're getting a great deal here. Blah, 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 blah. Hold up your arm, roll up your sleeve. Here we go with the injection. This has got a gene in it that's going to immunize you against the disease. Oh, really, doctor? Yes, absolutely. Of course, it will permanently alter your DNA, but that's all right. Don't worry about that. Unbelievable. Where are the page one headlines? How does that not lead the nightly news and lead to all kinds of investigative journalism? Let's let the hounds loose at the major networks and the major newspapers and find out why these people think that they can reprogram the human race. No, none of that is happening. That's not their job. They're in cahoots with these people. They're inside the medical cartel themselves. This is what I've documented for over 30 years now. You can't really talk about mainstream medical reporters and mainstream news and the medical cartel as being separate entities. The marriage was consummated a long time ago. A long time ago. It's up to us and it's up to independent media to start blowing the whistle on things like this. And this is a heavy one, folks. A really heavy one, because what are we talking about here? You open this door with so-called DNA vaccines, you're now talking about unlimited genetic experiments, covert, with surveillance tracking of the recipients who don't know they're the recipients to see what the responses are going to be over time. Part of the reason for the surveillance state. Face it. All right, so we think we've got a gene synthesized here that's going to create, what shall we call it? More obedient, compliant, passive individuals. Let's try it out and see what happens. On the other hand, we think we may have a gene over here that we synthesized that could create a jump in IQ. Let's try it on these people over here and see what happens. Of course, nobody's going to know except us that we're doing this. We think we have a gene that actually works quite well to induce slow motion infertility and sterility. Let's try that out. Here's a whole country over here. Let's do that. and let's see what the statistics show us. We can always explain away the lowered birth rate by saying, oh, we can attribute that to the rise of the middle class and to cleaning up the environment and so on and so forth, and astute medical interventions in crises. Sure, we've got unlimited cover stories for that. See what I'm getting at here? See where this is going. And yet, it could be heralded within a national health insurance program. Hey, step right up and get your DNA vaccine. This is the latest and the greatest, and we're treating everybody to it because it's part of your right to have this, and your children, and your babies, and your grandmother and grandfather. Everybody gets this one, folks. It's just part of what we're doing to share and care and help humanity improve its status and future. That's the way these things work. That's how they're promoted. And you will get untold numbers of idiots who will support this. Absolutely. Because somewhere in their brains, they've been indoctrinated to believe in the idea of doing good. They don't know what it is, they don't know what it means. They just want to do good for others. That's the way they've been indoctrinated. So they're sort of waiting for somebody to tell them, what does it mean to do good? Please explain. Well, for example, with DNA vaccines, next generation, it's going to be wonderful. We'll immunize everybody and so forth. Oh, good. That's doing good. Yes, I'll help you out. I'll do whatever I can. I'll volunteer. I'll hold posters. I'll sit in drugstores and scoop people up and bring them over for vaccine injections. Oh, yeah, this is wonder. I found the way. I now have found the way. Indeedy do. You have found the way. You found the road to perdition, my friend. Yes, indeed. I'm looking at other frauds that will be involved here. Epidemic treatments. Yes, we just announced a new epidemic. Yes, threatening the globe, indeed. But you're part of the National Health Insurance Plan, compulsory. And so you'll be receiving the vaccine and the drugs and all of that straight away. Yes, you'll be at the head of the line and so on and so forth. Turns out the epidemic is a total fraud. Never happened, never will. You want an example? I've mentioned it before. Screw in your brain real tight again on this one. 2009, late summer, early fall, CBS investigative star reporter Cheryl Atkinson, working at CBS, uncovers an incredible thing. At the height of the swine flu epidemic, the CDC in America stopped counting cases altogether and didn't tell anybody they were stopped counting. Well, that's their job. That's what they do. If they don't do that, they have no reason to exist. Why did they stop counting? They're claiming there's a whole bunch of swine flu cases during the summer. Sure, absolutely, 10,000, 12,000, whatever. But they stopped counting. Why, why? So Atkinson investigates, and what does she find out? The overwhelming number of blood samples taken from the most likely swine flu patients in America are sent to laboratories. And the overwhelming majority, way up there, of all those blood samples are coming back with no trace of swine flu, no trace of any other kind of flu. The whole thing is a hoax. The entire thing is a massive. She publishes that story on the CBS News website, and suddenly everybody at CBS wakes up to realize what they've just done. They've exposed one of the most gigantic medical hoaxes in memory. And now Atkinson and her editor are trying to get this story on the national nightly CBS News, which would be a much bigger deal because now that would raise hell. That would raise an incredible uproar. And now they're shut down. Dead in the water. Story's over. Never going to show up again. Bye bye. Never happened. Don't worry. Just keep your eyes straight ahead and walk and so forth. That's what I mean by an epidemic hoax. And of course, all the time of this gigantic hoax, people are being told, you got to get the vaccine, you got to get the vaccine. This is great. Vaccine that caused a whole lot of serious health problems with people. Whole lot of serious problems. But you got to get it. You got to get it because swine flu's coming. Swine flu's coming. The whole thing was a gigantic hoax. And yet, because I haven't gotten to the punchline yet, and this is a real boggler. Roughly 3 weeks after Atkinson published the story on the CBS News website, the CDC comes along and announces that their best estimate of the actual number of swine flu cases in America is, drum roll, 22 million. 22 million. Not a peep from anybody. Not a peep. 22 million. From 0 to 22 million. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And in my story, that those of you who are watching that's up here, you'll see the citation on where that story appeared, the CDC claim. It was on WebMD. So this is what you'll get. I mean, let's not even call it national health insurance compulsory plan and so forth. Let's just call it, the medical police state, the medical slave camp. That's what they're lining everybody up for. The next chapter. Here's the next chapter. So I'm boggled. I'm boggled by this. Even though I've reported on it one way or another for the last 30 years, I'm boggled by it. It's just unbelievable. It's all part and parcel of what you get when you submit yourself without knowledge or consent to the medical system.